Hi, I'm Annie Savage. I'm the founder of the Free Strings Method and a longtime classroom teacher and jam aficionado. I'm inviting you to learn a little bit more about running a bluegrass jam in your public school orchestra classroom. A bluegrass jam is a great way to help your students learn how to improvise through small numbers of chord changes. There are very few things that you need for this, and if you need any training or support, reach out to me and I can help. The first thing you want to do is make sure that your students are equipped to play a body of songs and fiddle tunes that you can reference. Jamming is a totally different classroom structure than being in an orchestra. It involves setting your students up into a large circle where everyone can maintain free eye contact. You don't necessarily need to position yourself in the middle of the circle, rather than just be a participant in this and let the magic unfold as students experience a jamming situation that is culturally responsive, creative, and meets the needs of the current music industry. As your students situate in the circle, you will have wanted to prepare them to do three things. They need to be able to play backup. Backup requires a working knowledge of how to function with chord changes. And the cool thing about bluegrass is that it has a very small number of chord changes. These skills that your students are learning by jamming bluegrass will help them be great jazz improvisers. It will help them play rock and roll and a whole host of American roots musics. That should help you diversify your program in a way that you've probably been thinking about already. You position your students in a circle. They need to be able to play backup, the melody of each tune, and then create small variations to each tune so that they can express themselves in what's known in bluegrass circles as a break. Someone needs to be able to play the chords, so you're going to need a guitar player. This guitar player doesn't need to be a proficient guitar player, but they do need to maintain even tempo. You want to take your basses and teach them how to walk the 1 and the 5. This is available in the Free Strings Method, or you can teach them to do this on your own by having them walk the tonic of each chord and on the third beat of each measure 4/4 hitting the fifth of each chord. We call this kind of practice music performance theory because these students are taking the theory you've been working on them all along in your classroom and actually living it in real time, even to express their creative ideas in real time. Again, these are the skills that the music industry rewards more often than can they read sheet music. The first thing your students will want to know is how to kick off the song. Either you can lead the song or they can lead the song, but the entire circle will need 3 pieces of information. They'll need to know the key. It would be ideal that they know the melody and have played this independently at least once before, but they will also need to know the tempo, and then they'll need to know how to come in and when to come in. The easiest thing for you as a seasoned public school orchestra teacher is to say 1, 2, ready, go. But it's not quite the most musical. So another way that we practice this is just to come in, either through timing licks, enter in the key of D, or by playing the last phrase of the song, otherwise known as a turnaround. And that can intro the vocalist very nicely. If your vocalist is someone else and not the person who's kicking the song off, that will also bring a certain challenge to the situation that if you work it out ahead of time, all the better, and if not, you should be able to do this. Again, if you refer to the Free Strings Method, we do this many times, as you can see here in our song, Gold Watch and Chain. Once you've kicked the song off and you're in motion, now what we need to know is how people know when to take their solo and who will be taking a solo. I would suggest that you invite all of your students to take a solo, otherwise known as a break in bluegrass. In my experience, if all of my students aren't taking a solo, then I end up with my stronger players becoming stronger players and my weaker players becoming weaker. If we can all share the vulnerability, then perhaps anxiety can be diffused. Bluegrass jamming is about the diffusion of anxiety, so anything that makes your students uncomfortable should be talked through and potentially altered. We want to have fun. We're asking them to be vulnerable, and this may be the first time that these students have ever improvised. So we want to keep things very simple and then get more complicated over time. I'm fortunate to teach an orchestra program where we meet 5 days a week. So we do our routine traditional curriculum for the first 4 days of the week, and on Friday we invite people to bring their talents in small groups, perhaps show us a song that they've been working on, and then we spend the second half of the period jamming. We don't just jam using bluegrass songs, we jam using rock songs and blues songs and mariachi songs and whatever my students bring in. The way that I teach break taking in my classroom is to move in a clockwise fashion, where each person takes a break while everyone else is listening or chopping. You're going to want to be able to scaffold teaching volume and balance. If the person who's taking the break cannot be heard, then the backup players are too loud. Another way that you can take breaks is to assign breaks. And that's when the person who's leading the song sends that out specifically through eye contact to each person they desire to take a break. On fiddle tunes, a break is an A-A-B-B rendition of the entire form. On a blues tune, you'll play the entire blues form out and then pass to the next person. In a song with a vocalist, the common practice is for each person to take a break over the verse. One of the cool parts about a bluegrass jam is that everybody gets to take turns being in charge. That should be refreshing for your students. So I encourage my students who are comfortable to also lead songs. What I ask them to do is bring in a lyric and chord sheet for each person to see before the day we'll be jamming that song. Now, as your students get more savvy with jamming, they won't need that, but it's very useful for everyone to see the chords in the very beginning. You can also project this on your classroom projector if that's useful. The leader of the song will need to tell everybody, again, the key, the tempo, and how they know when to come in and how to come in on time. A few useful tips for running a bluegrass jam in your classroom are eye contact, eye contact, eye contact. We are used to looking at our score and the conductor in the background of that. What we want to do is teach students to make eye contact with each other. It's only through eye contact that our students will be able to pass the break from one person to the next. We want to learn that when we make music, we're connecting on a personal level. This is something that we can teach our students through bluegrass jamming, let alone all of the other lessons that they'll be learning, which are everyone's in this together. We're all vulnerable. We can each play a small role in something that is bigger than the whole. Bluegrass jamming is a powerful tool in your classroom. Your students will walk with a culturally responsive experience that encourages them to be creative and also learn the skills that are relevant to the current music industry. Teaching bluegrass in your classroom can be a bridge between what happens in your room and the rest of the world of music. Your students will be able to play music for their entire lives, regardless of who they find themselves with and where they find themselves. They can use bluegrass to pivot into a whole world of rock and roll, mariachi, jazz, and blues. Most of these are phenomenal genres in our country. We teach the music of America because we believe in the music of America. These are amazing forms of music that your students will clue into immediately, if not have family members that are already participating in this genre. I wish you the best. You can find me at the Free Strings Method. I look forward to hearing from you, and if you have any questions or need any support, don't hesitate to reach out. The only reason I know what I know is that someone was willing to give me what they had learned through sitting in the jam circles. I'm a lifetime of gratitude for that, and I'm happy to share it with you. Good luck, and as we say at the Free Strings, total world domination through vibrating wooden boxes.